Welcome, welcome, welcome to the UniverCity online learning course. I am your international instructor, Benjamin Bilal, on this Sunday, July 12th, 2026. And today we're going to be broaching a topic that is essential for understanding where you are in time and space. And it's called a world of signals, not symbols, although they are related, but a world of signals as we begin. We live in a world of signals. The source creator designed these signals to give complete and obedient assistance to the human mind. The human mind slash soul is the de facto takeaway topic of the Quran. People might say, no, the topic of the Quran is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The topic of the Quran is the mysticism of the universe. No, no. The major topic of the Quran is the human nafs, or the human soul slash mind. I don't want you to see the soul as being separate from the mind, and I don't want you to see the mind as being separated from the soul. Imam W.D. Muhammad once gave this particular interpretation for the word nafs. And he said that the soul is not separate from the mind. They both influence each other. Keep that in mind as we continue. Let's look at the etymology dictionary meaning for signal. It's from the late 14th century, and it means visible sign, indication, which is a sense that is now obsolete. Also, a supernatural act of God, a device on a banner from the old French signal and signal, seal, imprint, sign, mark, and it's from the medieval Latin signali. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. A signal from late Latin signalis, it's an adjective used as a signal pertaining to a sign, from the Latin signum, identifying mark, sign. Keep in mind, as I've told you before, when you're looking up these dictionary meanings for words, pay close attention to the century that the word was first presented, because as I've said to you over and over again, if you're looking at anything from the 12th century to the 16th or 17th century, many of the words that you're looking at are going to be heavily influenced by the Quran. This is when the scholars of Europe were entering into their Renaissance period, and they were pulling or culling, as they call it, a lot of information from the study of Al-Quran. And in doing so, the vocabulary began to grow, began to blossom, new meanings, especially in the sciences. New meanings began to come into the vocabulary of the Western powers. So keep that in mind. Continuing my reading. The restricted sense of conventional or agreed upon sign, to commence or desist, etc., is from 1590s. The meaning modulation of an electric current is from 1855, later applied to electromagnetic waves. So that's the one that I'm looking for. Yeah, electromagnetic waves are called signals. Hence the use of signal in radio. We speak about television signals, radio signals, broadcasting. The railroad signalman is attested by 1840. So many of these ideas in the language came about almost simultaneously. Allah instructs us that He is Rabbi el-Alameen, the guardian, evolver, and sustainer of all systems of knowledge. This again is an interpretation or a translation given to us by Imam Warathuddin Muhammad. The term Rab is connected to the idea of bringing a life form from an internal state, which is called al-Batin in the Quran, to an outer state called al-Zahir. So we're talking about objects in the creation that come from an internal state, an invisible state, if you will, an unseen state, from what's called the ghaib existence. Ghaib means invisible. You can't see the whole thing. You see hints and clues of it, but you don't see the whole thing. To a state where it is readily available to your five basic senses. When we talk about the systems, just so you know, we're talking about something that has a foundation attached to it. That's the difference between what we're calling a system and what we're calling just random activity in the universe. In fact, there truly is no random activity in the universe. Everything is planned, plotted, calculated, and assisted by the supreme knowledge and discretion of Allah Himself. So keep that in mind. If you have any kind of system, academic system, economic system, whatever your system is that you're operating based on, it operates because it has an intact foundation. So if you have a system for your school, make sure that it has a proper foundation. You have a system for your economics, even if it's just your family's economics and how your family is spending money, it should have a foundation that supports whatever you're planning on putting on top of it. If a person builds a home or builds a tall skyscraper and they're not considerate of what they're building it upon as a platform or as a foundation, they're asking for trouble. And that project will soon come to ruin, either immediately or sometime in the unforeseeable future. It will not be able to withstand the pressure that those kinds of monuments and buildings and structures are able to normally stand because the foundation is not right. So imagine if you are in the process of building a human foundation, but you don't build that foundation in accord to Allah's fitrah, meaning according to how Allah has designed the human structure to be able to function, not just how it's formed, but the fitrah, as you know, is a combination of form plus function. It's not the Sphinx of Egypt. It's not just sitting there as a rock and you can say that's the face of a lion and that's the tail of a snake and that's a no, all of those identifying marks are outside indications of things, but it has nothing to do with the vitality of a thing because the vitality of the Sphinx is null and void. It doesn't move, it doesn't groove, it doesn't speak, it doesn't leave and come back. It doesn't do anything that living forms do. So the systems we're talking about that are systems of knowledge, we have to be able to identify what words in the Quran are speaking directly to ilm, to knowledge. And the Quran speaks about the use of useful knowledge. That's what all true knowledge actually is. It doesn't use the word useful, but the word ilm speaks for itself because it is insight into the communication of whatever meme represents. Insight is ein, communication is lam, and meme is speaking to something inside of you. Your moral discretion, moral logic, and other things that are associated with water, the things that are designed by Allah to keep you clean in your nature, to keep your foundation well kept, to keep these things that are going to be responsible for the longevity of your human life, to keep those things operating. And Allah says that He created all living things from ma, from water. Now, we have to examine our minds in a way which allows us to remove the contaminants from our thinking. And we as humans are the only ones charged with that responsibility. This is the way to bring about a universal system of peace and goodwill. A particular political/economic system cannot do that for you. It is only your conscious attention to the evolution of how your decisions are being made and executed that will align the mind with respect for all frequencies on that particular wavelength. There was a lot said in that sentence. I want you to go back over it when you get the replay, and you'll see it won't be difficult. It'll be an easy kind of read and understanding for you to come into. All we're saying here is that conscious attention creates your foundation. Conscious attention to how you are making decisions and how those situations and decisions are going to be played out in your life. And they're played out based on the connection that your attention has with like frequencies, frequencies that are on that same level. So if you're evil as an attention and an intention, then expect evil in return, because that's how frequencies operate. If you're doing your best to do your best, if you're doing your best to be righteous, to be rightly inclined, to be a moral thinker, to be a rational executor of judgment and all of that, then expect that opposite, or I wouldn't call it opposite, I'd call it mirror response. Expect that mirror response to come back to you. It doesn't happen all of the time immediately. It happens in time. If you're riding a vehicle or you're flying a plane and you get a command to change direction, that direction, pardon me, has incremental movement. You don't just herky-jerky turn the plane to the left. You have to make certain maneuvers so that the turning of the left or the turning to the left does not become complicated for yourself as a pilot or for any of your passengers. So if 10 seconds later you're still going in that direction, although the tower told you make this turn, they understand that the turn takes time. And that's exactly what happens in your life. That turns in the direction of your life away from that which is negative and causing you harm are also incremental. So don't expect to look up in an hour or so and see that your total life has changed because your conscious mind has made the decision to be right. No, you'll still be on that course, but it will only be for the exact amount of time that it takes to make a sufficient turn. And I think all of us are in the process of turning our lives in a different direction. I can tell from the conversation you had at the beginning of this program that many people are beginning to turn, and the people who are paying the same attention, who are on the same frequency wave, somehow they pick up the message and they began to make that same adjustment. Alhamdulillah. This consciousness involves everything from choosing an address to choosing to have a family, to choosing a leader for your community or nation. Being in tune with these signals brings about a proper and concise alignment that's necessary to fulfill those obligations. Unconscious and subconscious choices need to cross over into the realm of conscious choices and manifestations. So, in other words, we can't live our lives making these choices, these consequential choices, especially simply operating on the unconscious or the subconscious level. Those are not the only choices to be made. Those choices have to be regulated by what you are doing consciously, and you will be judged by not what your subconscious mind told you to do, not what your automatic unconscious mind told you to do, but by what your conscious mind, the neocortex, it's called in science, what that conscious mind told you to do, asked you to do, influenced you to do. That's the mind that you have to pay the most attention to. The major issues for the human mind are in the lower ego. You have two egos. You have a higher ego, but you have a lower ego also. The higher ego is called your super ego. That's a subject for another class. Just understand that your basic everyday ego given to you through the psychology classes and the other classes that deal with these issues of the mind, that's your ego. It's your third level of development. If you're looking at the chakras, it's the third level, right around where the belly is, that level. These issues produce jealousy, hate, rivalry, enmity, depression, listen carefully, arrogance, illiteracy, pride, hopelessness. Do you know that's one of the meanings for the word Iblis? That he gave up all hope. And that's what Allah says about him in the Quran. He says that he has given up all hope of ever bringing you to his side. He says that about Shaitan, about Satan. See? So these are characteristics that are given to us in the Quran, but we're not quite sure where they emanate from. So understand when you read it, the Quran, and you see issues of jealousy, issues of one people hating another, issues of depression. People in poverty are normally depressed, and on and on. Fear, for sure. Racism in our time, sexism in our time, chauvinism in our time, misguidance in every day and time, and insecurity, all of which create extreme situations in the psyche. So you go through these one by one when you get the notes, and you connect them directly to the ego. And I have told you in a couple of classes ago that the ego is also personified in the character Iblis. Iblis. You created me from nar, from fire. The ego is the area of the body where the solar plexus is, the sun plexus, solar, the fire. There are no topics in the Quran on how to bring about peaceful coexistence or how to bring about a just socio-economic political system with the people of the planet. Let me repeat that. Read the entire Quran, you will come across absolutely no topics in a book that's supposed to discuss all topics. You will find absolutely zilch, no topics in the Quran on how to bring about a peaceful coexistence amongst groups of people to form a socio-economic political system that represents one system. People want to see all of the other religions and all of the other political opinions and all of the other ways of life just vanish and disappear. And so that Islam, the Muslims, are the only system standing in the end. You think that's what the Quran is talking about. No, you got that information from extraneous sources of misinformation. No, no, indeed. That's not what's being talked about. Systems that the world is based on for their livelihoods, for their production. No, there will always be these extraneous ways of life. There will always be these decisions that are made that have nothing to do with making people Muslims. I hope you can digest that because that's not the aim and the intention of the Quran to turn everybody Muslim. to make everybody take Shahada, whether they like it or not, to make Islam the dominant religion on earth. You think that's what you're reading because you've been given the wrong interpretation of what you're reading. It never says that Islam will become the predominant religion. It says that Al Islam will become the most viewed, the most seen, the most apparent deen. Not that everybody will become that, but everybody will certainly know about that and what those choices mean if they were to make a choice to live that particular life because it's the most cohesive and it's the closest comparison you can give to what Allah gives us in the Fitrah. It's really that simple. It's not a forced proclamation. It's an absorbed proclamation. The Quran's repeated advice and instructions are on how to bring about the greatest measure of peace and reconciliation within us, meaning within our own nafs, our own soul. It does not tell you how to reconcile your differences with Africa, Asia, China, the Caribbean. That's not what the Quran came for. The human being has been retrofitted with the proper materials, the proper attitudes, the proper nervous system to bring about those changes for him and herself without the use of any extraneous, pardon me, scriptural guidance. It wouldn't be fair if it was based on guidance because not everybody has received the Quran. Not everybody knows. It's just now in this day and time when the whole world is starting to know that there are Muslims in the Quran as guidance. And if it's not explained to you correctly, you still don't believe it's guidance for the whole of humanity. That's not the purpose. Hmm. The purpose is to use it so that peace and reconciliation within your nafs can exist if you choose to absorb it, if you choose to follow its hints and clues and guidance. The Arabic term for this peace and reconciliation is tawheed, where you recognize the relationship of everything with everything else, where you don't see these splinters and these oppositions within yourself. You are not opposing yourself. The war that the Quran is speaking to is the war first and foremost within yourself, the jihad on your own nafs. These are ideas that are worth contemplating. The entire message of the Quran is about the growth of the soul through self purification. How to clean your own soul. We spoke about that a little earlier, but we were using physical terms. Ghusl, wudu, and all of these things. We think they're talking about extraneous movements and messages. Do you think the world had to wait until 1500 years ago to find out how to take a bath? What to do properly to be able to address your creator in the proper way? Do you think Allah would have waited with all of the thousands, if not millions of years that creation has been here? He would wait until only 15 or so hundred years ago to introduce how to wash your hands, how to wipe yourself when you go to the bathroom. Really, is that what the Quran is talking about? Really? How to use a rock to clean yourself after using the privy? Oh, really? That's what you believe the last message to mankind for all times came to tell you? If you didn't know that already, you're in a world of trouble. So the entire message is about the purification, the growth, the sustenance of the human self or the human soul. And you see, in that word self is a smaller word called cell. because that's where the original blueprint lies, in an understanding of what the cells do. We came here because of one initial cell, min nafsin wahida. We say soul. I'm telling you, soul and cell are compatible because it's the soul that has as its blueprint the cell. And when you study how the cell operates and how it replicates and builds into a functional body of trillions of cells, now you know the true blueprint for community development without having to dictate to other people how they're supposed to live. There are certain worldwide phenomena that, if followed, will bring the world into peaceful coexistence without you having to adopt anybody else's political anything. I'm giving you some information now that should be beautiful for you to hear. That you don't have to be a socialist. You don't have to be a capitalist. You don't have to be a communist. You can take the best of what each of those ideologies, philosophies, and so forth have to offer, as long as they are consistent with the fitra. Understand my emphasis. As long as they are consistent with the best motivations clocked into the fitra. And we have to study those motivations to know exactly what they are. We know what harm is. We know what help is. And they do not have a nationality attached to them. We know what charity is. We know what stealing, robbery is. And every community on earth has both of those properties that have to be dealt with. It's not an ethnic thing. It's not a um, political thing. Signals in nature. A signal operates based on electromagnetic frequencies. These occurrences represent the signature of the source creator. In the Quran, it is given to us in the phrase Bismillah, bi-ism Allah, with Allah's name. And a name is something we call on in order to get the attention of the one being called. Hey, Johnny, Muhammad, hey, call Muhammad. You call his name because you need his attention. To call on someone usually indicates that we need some type of assistance, sometimes minimal assistance, sometimes maximal assistance. Hey, Rodney, I need you to lend me $10, man. I left my wallet home and I need to pick up some bread and some other whatever from my wife before I get in. Okay. In other cases, I need to borrow $2,000. Or I'm at the bank and I'm trying to get a loan for $5,000, you know. So there are different things that we need, and we call on different entities for that assistance. But all of those entities have at their root the help of Allah, the Nasr of Allah, the assistance, the help that in some cases only Allah can give you. When we're asking for Nasr and Nasr, which is a surah in the Quran, it's called the help, then that's an assistance that only Allah provides and can provide. Without Allah, you're lost. But there's another assistance where we call on Allah that is not related to whether Allah does it or not. And if He doesn't do it, you won't make it. No, it's almost like an additional level of assistance. That word is given to you in Al-Fatiha. If somebody can think of it real quick by just going through your mental Rolodex, just tell me what that word is, where we're asking for help from Allah. In Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Hamd is called. That's your homework for right now. Let's see if you can come up with it. So,
Inakaabudu.
yeah, keep
Got
talking.
it.
You got to finish the whole.
Inakaabudu. Inaka.
Yeah,
Inaka.
Nestain.
I see.
That, yeah, you're coming across
Inaka.
a little broken up, but you're right. You're correct. Okay. Yaka na'budu wa yaka nasta'in. That's the word. You do we turn our attention to, and it is your aid, your help, your assistance that we seek. But that's, again, not an assistance that if you don't get it, you're going to die. But Nasser is when you're in the middle of the battle, the war, and you need Allah to step in and resolve some issues for you immediately. Two different levels of help. Now, there is an intention behind the one whose attention is being sought. To call on someone usually indicates that we need some type of assistance, as said. Sometimes the assistance is minimal and sometimes the assistance is maximal. When operating based on the premise that all things begin and end with Allah, the source creator, we naturally seek his permission to proceed with safety and security. We are seeking to be assisted from the storehouse of his abundance, El Kawthar, it's called in the Quran. The word abundance carries what I call and what the language scholars call the A of negation, and therefore translates to not bound. Abund, ants, A of negation means not or unbound. Abund, not bound. The etymology dictionaries are guessing incorrectly. The word bound is related to the word bind, which means to restrict. Therefore, abundance means not restricted. The word bind from the etymology dictionary, to tie up with bonds, literally and figuratively. Also, to make captive, to cover with dressings and bandages. And you can see that it's running the same connection throughout the rest of the meaning for the word bind. When you look at the word abundance beneath it, it says copious quantity or supply. And it's from the older French abondance and directly from the Latin abundantia. It means fullness or plenty, overflowing, full, to overflow. Now let's go to something that you're more familiar with because of the Shahada. The word ilah refers to that which we turn our attention towards. The word ilah does not mean God. There is no God except God, as they translated in the Shahadatain. No God but God. You see it all over the place, all over the world. That's their translation for ilah. But I repeat to you that this word, ilah, refers to that which we turn our attention towards. And I should say ilah, not just ilah, just so that you're clear. We generally turn our attention towards things that appeal to one or more of our five basic senses. The word consists of the two Arabic proto-root letters. It's important for you to understand what a proto-root is. Do that research on your own. I've given you enough material. Proto, in a nutshell, represents a two-letter word, not a three-letter, not a triliteral word, like most Arabic words are uh, telling us they come from. Triliteral. No, most words in Arabic are now triliteral, but they originated as biliteral or two-letter or proto-root words. That's listen to what I'm saying. Every root word in the Arabic language began as a biliteral root word. I can bring you academic proof for that, but your common sense math should be able to solve that issue for you. That two comes before three. I don't know what else to tell you. So in this case, there are many words in the Quran that have remained as biliteral or proto-root. And this word ilah is one of them. It consists of the proto-root letters lam and ha, the soft ha, which translate to lam means to pull towards a thing, as when a shepherd pulls a sheep away from danger towards safety. See, when a shepherd makes that move to pull a sheep away from harm, he uses his shepherd's hook. They call it a shepherd's goad. Goad means to send you in a particular direction. And that direction is normally against something that might harm you if you get to it. So he takes you by the neck and he takes the hook end and he pulls you by the neck away from danger, or he takes the shepherd's hook with the hook in his hand and he points you in the direction of safety and security. In any case, that lamb, that hook is designed to take you away from or point you in the direction of safety and security. So that's what it's used for. It's a pointer, as it is in the Arabic language. The word li is a pointer. Alhamdu li Allah. Alhamdulillah. It's pointing you in the direction of who receives the hamd, who receives the praise, who receives the hamd. How do we translate hamd? Anybody can answer.
Warmth, gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Praise.
There you go.
Yep.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They like to say praise, but that's not the best meaning. The best meaning is what William just gave us as gratitude. Can someone think of a different word?
Thanks.
Here it is. I'm sorry, Bashir. Bashir, go ahead.
Appreciate appreciation.
You have to unlock your mic.
Okay, appreciation. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes. That,
Gratitude.
that's the best word for alhamd. The appreciation belongs to Allah. And Allah presents that word to you as a noun. Alhamd. It's not just an action. It's a noun because nouns are permanent in Arabic. So when he says that the hamd is his property, it belongs to him, he's saying it belongs to him permanently. Not sometimes. It belongs to him all of the time. And guess what? Even when you're not conscious of it, it's still his property. It still belongs to him. Even if you're not on planet Earth anymore, the hamd still belongs to Allah because he created it as his property. It's beautiful when you understand it. So that's lamb. Then the second letter, ha, represents a window. It's a window. If you're in your home or you're in any edifice that has a window, that window is speaking to you, especially if there's some sound coming from the outside of the window, the side that you're not on because you're in the house. So lam and ha together represent the attention that you're paying to what is going on at the window. It's when you're being pulled or prodded to go investigate the window. When we apply passion, which is a strong, overwhelming feeling, to this action, it can lead towards the worship of something that we have extreme affection for. Therefore, an ilahun is a thing we turn our attention to. But an ilaha, listen, an ilaha is the action of paying extreme, or what we refer to as devotional attention to someone or something. So there are these little nuances in the Arabic language that once you understand them, your understanding of the Arabic meanings for Quranic words will also become grand. When you understand this little principle that sometimes the A at the end of a word like ilaha means that that thing has taken on proportions that are beyond the normal. And I'll give you some other examples, but I won't do it today. I don't want to divert your attention right now. Just understand that there are two expressions here. One is ilahun, that's the noun. That's the person, the place, the thing, or the idea. If you want to put the word God there, fine. And an ilaha is a verb form of the word, and it represents an action, not a thing. An action word. And what is the action? The action is in turning your extreme attention towards a thing, like the people did under Musa when they were looking at the heifer. You remember that story in the Quran? And they couldn't take their eyes off of the heifer because the heifer became their ilahun under the principle of ilaha. Many of the people in popular media and popular entertainment, especially in this day and time, they are all under the principle of ilaha. That's how they have the people, under the principle of ilaha. And that principle of ilaha has turned them all into ilahun. They have become our miniature gods. People in entertainment, people in the movies, the actors, the singers, the songwriters. These people have been turned into, methodically, a thing of worship that we can't turn our attention away from. So again, this is a case where the ilahun that was created by the source manipulators, actually, those who invent manipulation, they invented a psychological technique for grabbing our attention and not letting that attention go. You're going to look at this whether you like it or not. You're going to follow this trend, this fad, whether you like it or not. You're going to wear these colors because that's what everybody else is wearing. You're going to use this language because that's what I trained the entire population to begin using. You're going to cuss and fuss like everybody else. I don't care how old you are. I'm going to make you feel like a teenager again. So in your household, I want you saying F and B and all of these other raunchy, inconsiderate words. And eventually you're going to be talking to your mama like that. I don't care what this B got to say to me. I'm just saying, you talk to your friends like that. Sometimes you talk to your mother like that. This world has got us going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I'm telling you. It's an amazing thing when I sit back and study it. So understand that. The phrase Bismillah, it suggests that we are beginning with Allah's signature, with his name, his signature. You're trying to get some money out the bank, you go to the bank and you say, I need to have $200 borrowed from my account or taken out of my account. Well, they're going to need your signature because your signature represents your permission. So with Allah, we're beginning all things with his permission. When we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it also means that it is something that Allah allows. And whatever Allah allows contributes towards the best outcome for his creatures. In the Quran, these things are called halal. This word shares consonantal connections with the word Allah. Now, I bet you've never been told that before, unless you read it in one of my books, of course. Yeah. Halal and Allah are from the same etymological source. Genetics is on the rise. There are things that Allah permits that are not acceptable and are mitigated by resistance in the fitrah. But the things that Allah allows that are readily available to you are free for you to participate in. As an example, just look at how you breathe. That's allowed. And look at how easy Allah makes that so easy that you forget you're breathing. you forget that you're taking in oxygen 24/7. You have to give conscious thought to the fact that you are breathing through your nostrils into your lungs, throughout your system. The oxygen is going, it's keeping you alive, keeping your heart beating, doing all of these things that you are not consciously paying attention to. If you had to pay conscious attention for them to function, you'd be dead. We would be dead in less than a minute. See? When drowning, that action is mitigated by burning in the nostrils and the cutting off of oxygen. That's how you know that Allah is not approving of it. That's how you know that Allah is not the one that's allowing that to happen, because he's mitigating it. He's interrupting it by this bad outcome. And it's an outcome that is a mechanical outcome in the fitrah that happens with any living creature that can drown or that can come to its demise by some mechanical misfunction or miscalculation, not having enough air in the air that it flies in. If a bird goes too high, if it were possible, they would begin having problems. So what does it mean to allow? To commend, to praise. So now if we're saying alhamd means the praise belongs to Allah, then it also is saying indirectly that the allowance belongs to Allah. The fact that things are allowed, that is also the property of Allah. How beautiful this is. Alhamdulillah. So to appreciate the value of, see, this one dictionary line here is a whole khutbah for those of you who give those things. It's a whole college semester, college presentation. Just that, just the word hamd. If you were just to teach on alhamd, here's your presentation. Half an hour, definitely at least a half an hour's worth of information, just in this small section here of the dictionary. Not of the Islamic book, not of the Arabic dictionary, of the English dictionary. Gives you insight into the power, the reservoir of wisdom carried in the Quran in one word, alhamd. To recognize, to admit as valid a privilege, an excuse, a statement, etc. Sanction or permit, condone. So alhamdulillah means that the condoning is also the property of Allah. What is allowed, what is condoned, what is permitted. You can use any of those words. Thank you, Yusuf Ali, but we don't need your translations anymore in this regard. We appreciate the word that you put in, though. To allocate, meaning the allocation, the thing given. And you can go through the rest of this for yourself and put together your own logic for explaining it. There is no such thing as being lucky. And we use that word kind of haphazardly. No Muslim should be using that language that we are lucky. For some reason, I've heard a lot of immigrant Muslims using that. Yes, thanks to Allah, we have been lucky. No, you haven't been lucky. Lucky? There's no such thing as being lucky or unlucky in Allah's fitrah. Life responds to tuning and revolves around frequencies. Remember that one during your next social gathering. Say, can I say something to you people gathered here, the 2 or 3 of you who are having this conversation? Say, there's no such thing as luck. Life is responding to tuning. Allah says He created you min teen, tune. He created you as something that could be tuned, like an instrument. If you don't tune the instrument or you mistune, if there's such a word, the instrument, it's not going to sound right and it's not going to get along with all of these other sounds that we're trying to produce harmony through. So when human beings don't get along, it's because they're not tuned correctly with each other. Therefore, they create a disharmonic level of frequencies that don't get along with each other, that go against each other. Because life is responding to tuning, and it revolves around matching frequencies. According to the Quran, the human being was created min teen from malleable clay that still has some water content. That's malleable. It still has moisture in its form. If it has no moisture in its form, it's going to be hardened clay, which Allah speaks about also in the term salsal. He created you from salsal. Now that's the kind of clay where once the air has come in contact with it for an appreciable amount of time, it's going to solidify. If all of the moisture leaves it, it's going to become hard like rocks. And if your desire is to shape it into something else, you're going to have to smash it and start over again because it can't be done. And that's how they create certain human beings to become. That's why we call people who do wrong over and over again who get locked up, we call them hardened criminals. See the difference? This tells us that we are amenable. Learn that word if you don't know it. Amenable. You see amen in there? You see iman in there? We are amenable, not static. We're not standing still like wooden soldiers in front of the London or whatever that building is they have. And this fact holds true for all frequencies. All frequencies are malleable. They're always moving. You are created from sound, and sound is always in a state of flux, movement, wave forms, WAVE forms. All of you by now should have seen this picture of the triune brain. Let's just go through this very quickly for those who may not have seen it or for those who need a little refresher. The triune brain consists from the bottom up of the hind brain. You see where it's coming from, the hind brain. That's naturally going to be connected to your spine. It's called the reptilian or the cerebellar brain. And it controls instincts, the things that you do automatically. It's called the automatic brain. It's in charge of survival because it's connected to your breathing, it's connected to your blood flow, connected to your heartbeat, connected to all of these things. And also, as we mentioned earlier, your fight or flight reflexes, your involuntary reflexive organs and systems are related to this brain that's all the way down here, colored in red. The next one up is the midbrain, which is also known as the paleomammalian or the limbic brain. It controls your emotions. And they should have also put here your memory. It controls emotions and also memory. It's also influencing your imagination, your dreams. You dream from this midsection of brain. The rewards. So see, now when you read the Quran and you read certain stories and you read about how Yusuf had a dream, now you know what part of the brain to go study, don't you? Now you know more about what Yusuf represents, shouldn't you? And it is also in charge of pleasure and pain, those two principles, the pleasure principle and the pain principle. So now you know that when they put all of these inferences into the modern music, where sex is ruling and heartbreak, Heartbreak Hotel is ruling. Now you know what they are appealing to in you. You know what part of the nafs is being manipulated. Now we go one above that to the top brain. It's called the neo, meaning the new mammalian or the neocortex. Remember Neo in the what is that, the Matrix? Yeah, he was the one in charge. See, and he had to always make decisions because the neocortex controls intelligence. If it were me doing this, I would put that it controls the intellect. I'd make the correction for them that it's not control. Intelligence is throughout the entire body, but the intellect is the ruler in the top portion of the brain. Intelligence means the internal telling or communicating coming from the genes, the gens, but that's all over the body. When your food is consumed, what do you think it is inside of you that's causing that food to be able to feed and give vitamins to all of the other parts to the bones? It gives the vitamins to the bones. What is it, vitamin D or whatever goes to the bones? Gives a different kind of vitamin to the blood, different kind of vitamin to the brain, just from a piece of food that you've eaten. That's called intelligence, the internal communication coming from the genes. And the intellect even is not the highest level of communication. The intellect is just making certain proprietary decisions over your life. But there's an intelligence that reigns supreme even over the intellect. Because, again, when you eat that food, what kind of intelligence is telling that food where to go? That's not your intellect doing that. If we had to wait on the intellect to tell us all of the nitty gritty details about where to send this vitamin A, B, D, C, E, boy, we'd be in a world of trouble. Waiting on the intellect and its specialness to tell us where this food should go to save our lives. In the event that this vitamin is necessary to be in our blood system in less than 5 minutes, or this shot that I need to get to negate this poison that went into my system because I was just bit by a snake. How does the body know to take that substance and mitigate against that poison? That's split-second decision making right there. Your mind is not doing that. Allah created this physical flesh body with that level of intelligence. And not only that level of intelligence, this body knows to replicate a nose and a mouth and a pair of eyes and a tongue and ears that were on people 1 million years ago. The body is intelligent enough to know that I need to replicate that 1 million years later. Who's in charge of that? Is that you, instructor? But heck no. That is your source creator doing that kind of work. As the young folks like to say, he putting in some work from 1,000 years ago. You got the same kind of hair because you're in the same kind of environment that needs a sponge on your head that can soak in the moisture and let it just trickle down when you're in the heat, or you're in the kind of environment that's cold, like many places in Europe, and you need the stringy hair to operate almost in the sense of fur to keep you warm. You got the super furry body, super furry chest, not because you're a savage, because the environment dictated that to you. This is beautiful. Continuing. So those are the 3 levels of the brain. And they're connected to many things in the Quran that is presented in threes, like the 3 levels of the nafs. We'll go into that in another class in the near future. Clay is impressionable. The first sense developed in the womb is that of hearing. As babies, our souls are impressed by noise. As social creatures, noise is a major characteristic in the life of Nas. That's what we're called in the Quran. And Nas, the people, just happens to be the last in a series of 114 surahs in the Quran. The people. But they don't tell you that the word Nas is connected to some ideas that have not been promulgated by Islamic scholarship. So we're going to give those things to you in this presentation. The word news is consonantally connected to the word nas. And the word noise, as mentioned a moment ago, connected to the word nas. And news is noise, especially if you don't need the news or if it's just bad news, like they're doing on these nightly broadcasts and daily broadcasts now. They call it the news, but it's really just designed to offset and keep off kilter your nervous system. That's what most of today's news is designed to do. Somebody got killed. The crowd of people were shot at. 5 people died in the movie theater. This person died from leukemia on top of some other triple disease. Why do I need to know that is my question. I'm not trying to be funny about anybody who's dying from some dreaded disease. I'm just asking the question, why do I, all of the way on this side of the planet, need to know about how specifically a person or a group of people died in a situation that I can't do anything about? The only thing I can do is feel bad in my nervous system about them. And that's how they put the concentration on your reptilian brain, by making you always suspect that some danger is present. They call it clear and present danger. So the people called the Nas, and every time you come across that word in the Quran, sometimes you'll just see it written as men. Sometimes you'll see it as the people. But when you do, pay attention to the words that come in that particular directive, because it's a directive that's there to provide guidance for humans that are on a certain level of human development. So the people called the Nas are impressed by news related to 5-sense stimulation of the limbic brain. Yeah, I felt you, Adib. That's what I said to myself when it came to me. The limbic brain is the emotional brain. And when that emotional brain is stimulated, oh my goodness, the mind goes into a state of noise. Because now it's learning all of these new things from outside of itself, and it's prone to chatter. The mind, you can't turn it off, if you notice. Not even in your sleep can you turn off the chattering mind unless you know the technique. We'll be learning that technique during this class. Not today's class, but during this series of classes that we're having, especially in the psychology class that meets every Tuesday. The mind is given to chatter. Chatter and shatter are technically the same word. The CH and the SH are interchangeable in linguistics. So if you're chattering, you are also in the process of shattering something. You're shattering that very thing that's necessary for you to remain an upright thinker. You're shattering properties in your very I almost said soul, but I don't want to be that critical. In your spine and spinal cord. Whatever that's there that's supposed to do something for you and keep you upright, you're shattering that ability. So now you don't want to stand up for anything. See, last time I stood up for those niggas, they didn't even help me. They didn't even come to my rescue. So you stop standing up for people. I tried to stand up for that masjid a month ago, and then I went there for some sadaqah, and they wouldn't give it to me. I stood in front of that masjid for 2 weeks protesting with my little protest sign in the rain. And then I came to them the next week and I said, I need $2,000. I need to borrow $2,000. And they said, okay, we're just a poor masjid. We don't have no 2,000. See, they don't want to help me. So it shatters your confidence. And all of that is taking place in your emotional brain, the limbic brain. That's the anas in you. That's the thing that's creating all of the noise in the brain. That is why we love entertainment. Entertainment is called the lahwun. It's also related, they won't tell you that in the Arabic dictionaries, but it's related to the word ilah, lahwun. Look at all of the noise that entertainment creates in your brain. Can't wait to go see my favorite recording artist. I can't wait to go hang out with my fellas, with my boys, with my homies. Because why? You know they're going to make a whole lot of noise. In fact, when you walk into the party, they say, who's bringing the noise? Bring the noise. Yo. You barely stepped into the place. They're hollering your name. You got some people who will take out their pistols and shoot them in the sky just because you showed up. Pow, pow, pow. Hey, my boys, and pow, pow, pow. There's people just used to making all kinds of noise. I'm not saying this is true for everybody, but I'm saying that this is so typical that we can say it and identify where it happens. Motorcycle clubs up in Harlem, I used to see them at 125th Street riding like they are crazy. And the popo can't do anything about it or don't do anything about it. They said just let them ride it out up and down the street. People crossing the street, paying no attention to the signs or the lights or anything. Just because this is our time to ride and make noise. So they are the people, listen carefully, who are ruled by, first of all, curiosity. Something in the brain says, I need to know more about what they're doing. They're also ruled by agitation in the intellect. They're agitated. They're also ruled by distractions, interruptions. There's some people who won't let you talk because they have to interrupt you to hear what they have to say, so you can hear what they have to say. And one of the major meanings for Nas is those who create chaos and other noise-making phenomena. You know, the Quran says that the universe itself began in chaos. You think it's talking about Pluto and Mars and Mercury? It's talking about something happening inside of you to begin with. These are all of the things that our modern day singers love to sing about in their relationships. Not just love, that creates enough noise, but the chaos, the breakup, the make up to break up phenomena that happens in the relationships of the people who sing those songs. Hard to handle and appeal to somebody else's girlfriend. Yeah. Say, baby, here I am. I'm a man on the scene. I can give you what you want, but you got to go home with me. Really? That's chaos. You're asking to get shot. But these are the songs that they have us falling in love with as young people. I learned that song when I was 9 years old. Otis Redding, I believe. Hard to handle. But that's Nas. These leave impressions in your clay mind that are imprinted into the mid-level part of the brain, as we said, called the limbic brain. And they're taking place on the subconscious emotional level. Now, I'm not going to read all of this. I'm going to let you wait until you receive the replay, just for time's sake. I'll read a little bit of it so that you can see where I'm going with this. This is from the internet. Toddlers talk a lot. I think I asked it the question, why do toddlers make so much noise? A simple question. Why does my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old talk so doggone much? It seems like they incessantly talk back to back to back. You got to tell them, slow it down, son. But it's because of this phenomenon we're about to read about. Toddlers talk a lot because it's a natural part of language development. See, this is not bad. Not even in humanity is this incessant talking and noise making a bad thing. It's a part of our human growth and development as people. Toddlers talk a lot because it's a natural part of language development, curiosity, and emotional expression. See that limbic brain kicking in again? Developmental reasons. Between 18 months and 3 years, children often experience a language explosion, rapidly expanding their vocabulary and experimenting with sentence structures. Talking allows them to practice new words, refine grammar, and improve articulation, essentially exercising their mouths, tongues, and vocal cords. This stage is crucial for cognitive growth as children explore their environment and learn to communicate effectively. So everything I gave you just now fits into the category of Nas. Let me just read this next part. Emotional and social factors. Excessive talking can also reflect a child's emotional needs. Toddlers may talk to seek attention, express feelings, or assert independence. Shy or anxious children might use talking to cope with stress or social situations, while energetic children may verbalize as an outlet for their energy. Talking helps them connect with others and make sense of the world around them. So again, as you read the Quran and come across that term in Nas, look at the environment of words that it comes in. And I'll just scroll up slowly. So when you receive this as a replay, you'll get a chance to read it, stop it, Read it for yourself. A lot of good hints and clues here for understanding Nas. Okay. Now, in the Quran, in Surah Yusuf, which is Surah 10, beginning with Ayah 1, Allah says, Alif Lam Ra.
Units.
These are the ayats of the book of wisdom. Yunus, pardon me. What did I say?
You said Yusuf.
Did I say something different than Yunus?
You said
Oh, yes.
Yusuf.
Okay. Pardon me. Correct. Thank you for the, I got you. Thank you for that correction. It's a good listener right there. I appreciate that. All right. So Alif Lam Ra, these are the ayats of the book of wisdom. And I'm only doing this to point out a couple of situations where Nas is being used so that you can look at the environment that it comes in. Is it a matter of wonderment to men? That's just the first line. A matter of wonderment to who? To Nas, Linnas. Akana Linnas, for those who transliterate and can't read the Arabic. Wonderment means surprise, that you're curious about this. It's a wonderment to Anas that we have sent our inspiration from the word wahi, al-hayna, that we have sent our inspiration to a man from among themselves, that he should warn mankind of their danger, they put in brackets, and give the good news to the believers that they have before their Lord the lofty rank of truth. But say the unbelievers, this is indeed an evident sorcerer. This guy is a tricky guy. He's trying to fool me. He's trying to hypnotize me. He's trying to take away my freedom. He wants something that I have. See, this is the mindset of Anas, and it should be. But it's also the mindset, if you think about it, of the average young child. just, just switch the two. Verily, your Lord is Allah, who created the heavens and the earth. See, this is also how you should be teaching your young people. Verily, Rabbakumullah, your Rabb is Allah, who created the skies and the earth in 6 days. Because that child's going to be curious about 6 days. What happened on the second day? What about the fourth and the fifth day? This is stimulating their curiosity. And is firmly established on the throne of authority, regulating and governing all things. No intercession can plead with him. No stand-ins, no stand-betweens. No, you got to check with this one before you check with that one before you come to Allah. No, there's no intercessions between you, child, and the source creator. That's important for children to know. So no intercessor can plead with him except after his leave or after his permission has been obtained. This is Allah, your Rabb. Him therefore serve ye. Will ye not receive admonition? Will you not see this as a sort of light warning? This is how you have to teach your children. So just go over this in your higher mind, your mind's eye, when you receive this, and start connecting it to how child rearing should be conducted. Our source creator is in the process of growing humanity up so that we can assume our rightful place as Khalifa, meaning one who comes from behind to take position of leadership, to take the position of leadership. Our initial tendency as children is to push our way through. Notice that about young children. Our tendency is to push our way through or to force our way in. We get to the door of the lunchroom and we are pushing to get in. We see somebody else in the front of the line and we want the front of the line. As a bully, we push the child out of the way. We call it being hasty. So we're talking about the idea of pushing and forcing. This is yet another feature of the limbic brain. As we grow older, we learn to wait upon an invitation to participate with, to join, or to enter the group. That's what we do when we begin to mature. But when we're young, we used to live right across the street from an elementary school. And every lunchtime, we used to hear those children when they would come buzzing out of the school doors, pushing, shoving, laughing, making noise. Most of our childhood games and toys involve us pushing someone else or being pushed by someone else in a way that creates noise. We're not saying that they're bad for doing this. We're saying this is just a natural part of their physical growth and development. We like to push each other on the swings. We like to push each other in a little toy car or vehicle. We like to push our children in wheelbarrows, and they just love being pushed. Most of us are pushing our way through life using force. After a while, we realize that force without alignment becomes exhaustion. When you keep finding yourself having to force your way into the company because they didn't want to accept blacks or Negroes or colored people, so you had to get ordinances and change laws, and you had to force your way into that company around the people who don't like you, but the government said that you have a right to be here now. That's you forcing the labor force to accept you. And that works initially, but having to do that over and over again to the point where there's no let up, 50 years later, you're still forcing yourself into these situations, you're going to become exhausted. You're talking about people who know the nature of nature. They study these things in laboratories, not just in schools. And they say they're right at the brink of breaking. Let's just give them something else to force their way into. Let's convince them that this is still in existence and they have to still stay on guard, and that the reptilian brain has to still be operating so that we can burn them out with fake, phony, fraudulent emergencies. And they won't have time to commit themselves to real progress in the intellect, because the reptilian brain will be working overtime trying to save them from something that doesn't all of the way at least exist. Force is what we're talking about. After a while, we realize that force without alignment becomes exhaustion. At first, force looks noble, and it is. You can't hold me back. You can't keep me outside of these doors. I have an equal right to be here and to benefit from these, uh, whatever it is we're offering. Benefit from this paycheck. I have a right to work here. I'm an American, like the rest of you are married. How many years did it take for us to convince people of that? Back in the 50s, in the 60s, and even in the 70s, we were forcing our way into the restaurants, around the counter tables. People pushing us off the stools. Nigga, go home. We don't want you here. Now, pretty much, we go anywhere we want. There's no more force on that level. So they just find other things that you have to be convinced of that you need to force. But at the same time, you can't do that and build a world at the same time. Building a world takes power. Force is a feminine energy, but power is a masculine entity. It is the combination of these two forces which balance out the human life. In the same way that the balance between the male and the female is what balances out societal life, community life, etc. It begins with these energies. These energies are what produced male and female. How we live socially depends upon the society we live in. One ethnic group does not have the right to determine what is right for another group. We can only assist them if they determine that they want our assistance. Very key point, and a Quranic point I'll show you in a moment. That is when change becomes welcomed and will occur with the assistance of the source creator. The Quran could not claim to be a book for all people and have every major topic on earth and its subject matter. If it's a book for all people, it should address every concern that humans have. That's the logic I run with. This is a book for all people. It's a book for all of humanity. Then it should address every question that humans have. But see, that's the wrong question. That's the wrong logic. That's the wrong perspective. And it will give you the wrong level of insight. It won't give you insight at all. Because we're thinking that the Quran is here to address the Mexican. The Quran is here to address the Ethiopian and the issue of starvation. The Quran is here to address the African American and why we don't have another African American person in the White House, like Obama. So we're going to the Quran because we think it's this universal book that is supposed to be addressing all of these human concerns, and it's not. You are a speck of time in time. You are just one little lifetime of 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, maybe, in a stream of time that runs millions, probably billions of years. But you want to be so important that you think the Quran is addressing you, the individual, and your time, and is talking about Trump, and is talking about this. No, it ain't. It has no clue who those people are in that sense of the conversation. It cares not. It doesn't even. It's not even concerned. Just like it's not concerned about you if you go up to the Empire State Building and jump off. It's not concerned that you were a good person for the last 20 years. So I'll let him hit the ground and live. What the bad people are the only people who I will have die. No. That goes against every rule of physical law. Because that's not what the Quran came to do. You know, a lot of Muslims are not even aware that the Quran was not given to them in its complete form as a cogent book. Muhammad was not the one who collected the revelation and gathered it together, put it in a binding, and presented it in the public for public. The Quran at first was not for public usage. Just like the Bible, when it was put together, it was not put together by the Latin people or the Latin language in a way that was designed for the public's usage. It was many years before they allowed the public to be able to read the Bible for themselves. It had to be read in the church, the Catholic Church, by the priest or the minister of that church. You could not take that Bible home and read it for yourself. Same thing with the Quran. There was no English translation for many, many years. No Spanish, Latin, Greek. There were none of those translations until a couple of hundred years later, after they had invented the first dictionary called El Ain in Persia, ancient Persia, modern day Iran. And that first dictionary gave the Muslim world their marching orders in terms of how they were to interpret these Arabic words into Persian meanings for words. And that corruption lasted for all of these 1,200, 1,300 years of history. So you have a little bit of a running jump with Nunetics in understanding the true meanings of Quranic words, because Persian words look like Arabic words, but have been twisted and turned to represent different meanings and inferences for words. So the word we got as mu'min, we translate it as believers, but that's not what it means in the purity of fitra-based Arabia. It doesn't mean believers. A baby is a believer. That doesn't mean much. You taught your child to believe in Santa Claus. Remember that? So to believe in something is not a real strength of the intellect. To know something, that's different. You should be called a knower then, right? And believe it or not, in the Quran, you are called a knower. But you won't know it because they changed the meanings. So what a job we have in front of us. That's a story for another time. I just want you to begin walking on that track that says I have a lot of work to do, but I have the rest of my life to do it and to learn it and to practice it and to establish it, beginning in me. You don't have to go anywhere else and convince anybody else of what I'm saying. Just teach yourself until you are convinced that this is a better understanding, and then establish it in you. Once you establish it in you, you will begin to attract other people, like I've attracted other people who are on the same wavelength. We're looking for each other and don't even know it. It's beautiful when you understand it. So the Quran, again, could not claim to be that kind of book for all people and address all subject matters. And it never was intended to do that. Most of the common people would not qualify if that were the case. Most of the common people of planet Earth would not qualify to understand the Quran with the present level of academic qualities they possess. The majority of the world has been kept academically ignorant. They can't even read the Quran in their native language in most cases. We think because we got a couple of years in on English that the rest of the world is where we are. No, they're not. Many places in Africa can't read in their native languages. They might know a word here, a sentence there. Some of them read 2 and 3 and 4 languages, but they're not in a position to translate anything for anybody. So we have a long way to go as a world. We're still evolving. If that were the case for the Quran, then it would be a book for a particular elite class only. If it were for everybody, the only ones who would have access to it are the elite, those who were taught through special classes, through special meanings for words and language. The Quran is the go-to catalog for operating the most complicated machine ever created, and that machine is the human mind, the nafs. Whether we are discussing politics, economics, culture, or academics, other matters are trivial when compared to this all-important subject. That is why the teachings of the Quran are so valued. These other areas produce elite thinkers in academia, in economics, etc. And if your human mind, or as we said, the soul, is not taught balance and sobriety, the world can be ruined in a very short period of time. Allah says, when I have balanced him and breathed into him of my ruh, of my spirit. He didn't just say, I have breathed into the Khalifa of my ruh. He said, when I have balanced him, using another word related to the word uswa. See? So you need an operating uswa first. The human uswa is on a constant search for balance. Physically, when you come here as a baby, you're on a search to balance yourself on your two legs. Morally, when your mama and daddy begin to teach you principles, do this, don't do that, it's bad to do this, it's not good to talk when people are talking. All of these are moral because you come here neutral, except for what the physical body teaches you as being proper. So we're searching for balance morally. That's going to lead us to search for balance on the emotional level. You're gonna fall in love with that little girl in kindergarten, and your mama gonna tell you, don't take that too seriously, son. So everything is developing simultaneously. Psychologically, you're seeking balance, and also spiritually, you grow into spiritual reckoning. I like this religion, but I don't care too much for this other one here. Those are your individual spiritual decisions based on what you feel will benefit you. In the surah called Arad, the thunder, Allah says, for each person, there are angels in succession before and behind them. And just so you'll be reminded, all of these pronouncements are speaking to the human brain. Stop thinking this is some celestial event happening above Mars. These events are happening in you all of the time, in every one of you. That's what makes the Quran special for every individual, irregardless of where you're from, what language you speak, what food you eat, what kind of clothes you like to wear, what kind of language you are professing. It doesn't matter. It's not speaking to those local issues. It's speaking to universal issues. Do all of you have a brain? Do all of you have nervous systems? Do all of you have blood flow and impulses? That's what it's speaking to. The best management and control of your native properties that all of us as humans share. And when we understand the commonality of all of that, that's when the world will begin to come together in peace and reconciliation. And you're going to see a whole new world come in almost overnight, automatically. We're reaching that point. The world is changing. The planets are rotating. They're bringing in different frequencies that are allowing for this. And you have to be able to recognize the residue of a time that's passing so that you don't get so caught up in its fervor that you miss the new world coming in. You're so deeply invested in who said something racist and hurt your race feelings. They hurt your blackness. You're so busy crying because your blackness was hurt. And you're not even black, technically speaking. They pulled such an okey doke on this people. I'm telling you, I don't know how we're still caught up in it in 2026. I don't know. I don't get it. But I do get it because one world is going out. But it's leaving residue, like things do, like noise does. So y'all got to cut this noise and get out of here. Okay, well, the noise you got to give it time to dissipate. It doesn't happen right away. You'll be yelling outside of the door after you put them out of the venue. But it takes time. And the first change has to take place inside of you. You have to become adverse to hearing this level of noise for no reason. These are not children. I don't want to hear all this bickering and fussing and fighting and people starting to pull out pistols and knives. Why? All of these years this person put on this earth and somebody's going to come along and in a heartbeat just stab them in the back or in the front or wherever. Shoot into the crowd for fun. Shoot out from your vehicle as you're passing. a little party they're having on the block and kill a boy, kill a child. For what? Because you love noise. So look at what Allah says. They guard him by the command of Allah. Verily, never will Allah change the condition of a people until they change it themselves with their own nafs. With their own soul, they have to change it. You don't like what's happening in your so-called black community, your so-called white supremacy community, your Mexican, wherever you are. If you don't like your circumstances, Allah charges you with being the one responsible for changing it. Point blank, cut and dry. He didn't charge the government with it. He charged you. You put too much pressure on the government. That's not their job. Their job is just to be an umbrella. Create laws that support your right to live the way you want to live. Not to dictate to you everything you're supposed to do as an American or whatever. They don't sit there and supply all of these needs and laws and bylaws and all. You're supposed to do that for your own community. This is what you like, and you've got other people who like the same thing. We'll live together then. Prove that you like living like that. Live together. UniverCity students. You know, the time is going to come when we're going to be real pro when it comes to that idea. Man, can we find some land somewhere where we can all share these ideals, these common features that we love, this language expression that we are coming into? We understand the whole world will never come into this, but let us milk this for the next couple of decades for what it's worth. At least live in the next state where we can get to each other. I don't push that on you because I know it might scare some of you. But I'm telling you, the world is conditioning itself for people to become more favorable to that idea. We have to begin to live as communities that agree with each other, as ummah, that agree with the lifestyle, the tendencies, the growth patterns of other individuals. So we're going to purchase this 5-mile radius block of land or 10-acre land. And you might say, well, we're in no position. We're not capitalized. No, you're not capitalized like that now. I'm telling you, the world is changing. There are opportunities that are about to come in that if you're in a position to take advantage of them, you could live where you live now and still participate in purchasing 10 acres with some cattle, with some horses, with some agricultural life. That'll be nothing for you. In a minute, all you got to do is stick around. Just keep living. That's most of our problem. Most of us are getting too sick to keep living. So we're going to be suggesting ways of revitalizing your life. Not just your mind, your body comes with it. It's a package deal, your mind and your body. Doesn't make all of this sense to improve upon our minds and our bodies are going to hell. I want you to think seriously about what I'm saying. It's a package deal. We came here with a body and a developing intellect in the baby. And it's supposed to all get exponentially better and bigger and broader. So let's wrap this up. So we have to change it with our own selves or our own souls. And the rest of this is not necessary for our conversation. The senses, what they call the 5 basic senses, they report only on the surface. We see these things in the outer world and we repeat them to others. Soon the entire world is believing in our surface observations and calling it reality. What we call reality is just an agreement that we have between each other that Yeah, I see it this way. Do you see it this way? Yeah, I see it this. Okay, that's our reality. Let's go with that. Let's put that in a book and push that into the lives of our future generations. But the senses are only reporting on the surface. Our 5 basic senses are not designed to provide insight. They are designed to provide safety, and they simply form the foundation for the basis of societal life. That's what our senses are doing. They're keeping us safe by giving us a platform to believe in and to operate by. The Quran has a word for it. What is that word? Gurur. Yeah. It says that the entire world is but gurur. Ghuroor. Gurur. That means illusion. No better interpretation for that word. Illusion. Everything around you is actually an illusion. Listen, if you were deep into the biology sciences, you would know that if you put your hand under an electron microscope, that you're not going to see this physical hand anymore. You're going to see worlds when you look through that microscope. It's going to show you atoms, quarks, in other words in science that we're just learning about. And it's going to show you that the hand that you think is a solid object is actually a non-solid object that is never still. It's always in flux, as we mentioned earlier. It's always moving as waves. And in between atoms seems to be nothing. That the hand, the solid object, is 99.999% nothing. And the thing that is something is the part that we're calling matter. Solid matter. But it's not solid. It's fluid. It's fluid. It's moving. It's fluctuating. And that's true for everything in the perceivable universe. That's what makes us one. So where's the American in that? Where's the illegal immigrant in that? Where's the bad vice president in that? Wherever you look, they say there is the face of Allah, right? Whichever way you turn is the face of Allah. Well, that's the face of Allah, the energy. The energy. Get used to identifying with energy fields. Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to interject. You were talking about something.
You.
Can you hear me now? Hold on.
Yeah, I hear you now. Yes, sir. Please go.
Okay. As above, so below, as within, as so without, right? So when we look at the cosmos, we look at the same makeup of the human body. The human body is made up of 70 to 80% water. So that would mean that the cosmos is as well. And those waves have oxygen, hydrogen, and all the essence of life there. So we can see how those ions, those quarks, positrons, that they broken down the atom, how it can manifest an image that appears, a holographic image that appears to be solid, but is vibrating so slowly, it appears solid. And I was reading about an illustration about the fan. If you look at a fan, and the fan has, let's say, 3 or 4 speeds. At the first speed, that's the slowest speed, you can still see the blades clearly. But when you get to the 3rd or 4th speed, not only can you not see the blade as a solid, blades as a solid structure, but they also, you can see through them as they move. It's the same principle.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you want to expand on that.
Yeah, and that's an important feature of the FITRON. But let me finish this point, because this is my last point, and then we'll entertain those questions.
Oh, surely.
Is that okay with you? Yeah. And that's a major point you're making. So we'll get right back to that.
Sure.
Hold on. I'm almost through here. Yeah. And you just demonstrated my point, my next point, that our 5 basic senses are not designed to provide insight. They are designed to provide safety and simply form the foundation for the basis of societal life. Seeing is actually not believing, because you could be looking at that same fan you're discussing and see that you can see straight through those blades as they're turning at speed number 5, thinking that you can just put your hand through it and it's safe to do so. You'll be in a world of trouble. At that rate, the senses speak so authoritatively that a financial shortage looks like punishment. Now I'm talking about how we see the world through the eyes of Gurur, this illusion that I'm talking about. In other languages and other religions, they call it by other names, Maya, Gaia. They call it other names in other observations. So the senses are speaking with such authority that when there's a financial shortage, we think we're being punished by God. You see, he let the stock market crash. They speak with such authority that we think a strained relationship looks like proof that that love cannot be obtained by you. It's unsafe. This is the 3rd girlfriend I've had that turned me down when I asked her to marry me. This must be bad luck. We're seeing through the eyes of matter. We're seeing through the eyes of the illusion, and we're taking the untrue picture that our senses are bringing to us because she left. But we're not understanding what's going on the level of vibration and frequency. We're not understanding what's going on on the level of what I have vibrated towards me based on my frequency. Why does she keep leaving you? That's the question to answer. This is not for any one of you. This is just a general question. Why does this woman keep leaving me? Everything seems fine in the beginning when we meet, but after a while, it seems as though people move from state to state trying to find a different wife. And the same thing keeps happening in another state. But why? Because we're not understanding the rules. These are laws in the fitra, in the universe, of why things happen. And as they say, why sometimes good things happen to, bad things, pardon me, happen to good people. Because the universe is not responding to your moral mind. It's responding simply to laws that have been calculated into the universe by the creator of all. And he created it as being neutral, and the human being has to figure it out from there by just studying the laws, seeing what's acceptable, seeing what's rejected, seeing what's allowable, seeing what's worked against in nature, and then applying them with your human mind, your human brain, to your human circumstance and situation to build your society. That does not have to be exactly like the society next to you. That's the beauty. You don't see that in the flower kingdom, all of the flowers looking alike. Why do I have to come out into a group of people and see everybody dressed alike? They don't have their own sense of taste, quality. Is the dress performing the same function? Is it covering their shame? So why do I care whether it's yellow or black or purple? You didn't care whether that flower was yellow or red or green or purple. And it was still a beautiful flower. You presented it as a bouquet. So all I'm saying is that there are variations on the theme when it comes to what is acceptable and what's not, and why These things in the physical are what they are. And it's because, again, if you leave or determine that your senses are the final say-so on what this world is presenting to you, you're going to be fooled every time. So these observations that we're seeing are not necessarily true observations. And sometimes it's the patience factor that needs to factor in. Sometimes if you just wait a little bit, you'll find the thing that you've been looking for years beginning to gravitate in your direction. As the soul matures, it also learns to read. It will one day realize that life is a wall as well as a field of responses, and that it is responding on multiple levels simultaneously. And I believe this is one thing that I'm sure Muhammad will agree with, and that is that we're living in what science is now calling a multiverse, not just a universe. That there are multiple realities in front of us, according to quantum science, if you're studying that there are multiple realities. There are different levels of cognition that people come into. There is the first dimension, the second dimension, I'm sure you've heard, third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, and above that. And sometimes there are specially qualified people who can move between dimensions. These are not questions that science has conclusively come to resolve, no. But it has created enough of a speculation for people to begin to say, what's after this? But it takes exalted levels of consciousness in order to even entertain the question. And we have come through a portal, as Imam Muhammad put it. He said, we have begun to sit down at the table of the fifth dimension. And he said, and it is a round table. Those are words from W.D. Muhammad. That obviously he didn't get a chance to discuss the nitty-gritty value of those kinds of comments because we were not ready for that. And we're not ready for it based on what the majority of us are doing right now as we speak. Just look around the country. Wherever you find people who say they follow W.D. Muhammad, just look at their production. We don't have $1 billion in the bank account as Nunetics, but we have a level of insight that is not easy to come upon because it's not easy to put this kind of logic together. Doesn't mean that I know for sure it's going to last or it's going to pay back in dividends. I have no idea. Only Allah knows that. I believe it will, but I don't know that for sure. It might not be for today's day and time. Maybe the world has to get ready for what Unetics has to offer. But I do know that the brain waves that this brain is operating by is shifting. That what we used to call a genius child back at the turn of the century is almost becoming commonplace in the world amongst the poor and out of sorts type people in Africa, running around with no shoes on their feet, but inventing computers based on scrap metal and wires that they found in their environment. They're operating computers that they built at 12 years old. And it has to also do with the replication of the DNA, moving from 3-strand, 2-strand, actually, now all of the way up to 12-strand DNA that they're finding in places around the country and around the world, particularly in places in Africa. I don't know if you read about that. 12-strand DNA. We supposedly have only 2 strands, and look at the work we're doing. Can you imagine having 12 strands of DNA linked together in a system of knowledge? Lastly, the soul that is reading will one day realize that life is a wall It has to be surmounted, but it is also a field of responses to stimuli, cellular stimuli, genetic stimuli, cosmic stimuli coming from places in the universe. Those levels need interpretation because the human being is an abstract thinker on the most part and needs explanations for things and events. We are abstract thinkers. So when the Quran makes a statement like Iqra, and we think it means to physically read a book, we're incorrect. It's speaking on the abstract level because your eyes are not truly reading anything. Your soul is reading. And we have to find out what that entails. The senses report the surface with such authority that most people become servants of appearance. They look at what is happening and they conclude that this is the whole truth. But life is not only a wall, as stated, it is also a field of response. Most people have been trained to react, but responding is the fitra methodology that renders the best results. To react is simply to mirror the action of another who acts, whereas to respond is to show responsibility, the ability to respond for changing the world. No, for changing the would-be reaction into an action, but with a much more suitable outcome. It is a well thought out maneuver which places the ball in your court in terms of what you will become, as Muhammad, my friend, loves to say, or quote, kun fayakun. William also. We love that in the Quran. Be and it becomes. We are always looking at the becoming stages of a thing that's being created. The surface is never the whole story. That's why when you judge by sexism and racism and nationalism and all of that, you're judging the shell of a thing. When you judge the human by the shell, that's just his soul's shell that you're judging. And you take his soul shell and you place it on the beach somewhere or in a mountain cave somewhere, and you can't get the best reaction from the soul because of the environment, the limited environment that you placed it in. But if you let the soul come in contact with the cosmos, now you're talking about the whole story. If a person stands before a mirror and does not like what they see, the wise person does not fight the glass. The mirror does not fight you. It does not argue with you, nor does it flatter you. It reflects what is presented. If the reflection is disordered, the wise person doesn't fight the reflective surface. The wise person returns to the original. Allah says, certainly we belong to Allah, and to Him we are constantly returning.